Hello, everyone. Tonight, I'm going to talk about a common kitchen herb that knows how to bring on the heat when we need it. And that herb is cayenne. Hi, I'm Allison from The Well Cultivated Life. Thank you for joining me for Flower Power, where I like to talk about all the things I love about all the plants that I love. So cayenne is a member of the nightshade. Cayenne is a pepper, and it is a member of the nightshade family. It is related to potatoes and tomatoes and eggplant and some other lesser known vegetables that we all know and love. And the botanical name is capsicum. And there's several different species that have been developed into a ton of different varieties that I'm sure you are all familiar of. Now, some of them are sweet, some of them are hot, and some of them are insane. So, all of them are related. Now, these are originally from South America, and there's evidence to show that there were found fragments and DNA or something in Ecuador about 6,000 years ago. And so after that time, this spread throughout all of sort of South America and Central America. It's actually a perennial plant, even though where I live, of course, it can't survive the winter and it's grown as an annual. Now, one of the main ways that it was spread was, of course, by people, but by birds. And this is because birds could get a lot of nourishment from the peppers. And the original peppers, I'll show you a picture in a minute, were very small. They were teeny. And so the birds weren't bothered by the heat like we mammals are. And that's just because they don't have the same type of pain receptors or nerve endings that we do. And it's also the reason why birdseed companies can charge us a ton of money to purchase the hot pepper bird seed that the squirrels don't like to eat, right? Because they're mammals and so are we. Now, they are called peppers because the person who named them or the way that they first got this name was when Columbus traveled here to the Western Hemisphere. He wasn't traveling to the Western Hemisphere, he was trying to find a trade route so that they could get to India and the West, not the West Indies, but the Spice Islands and get pepper corns, which is not related at all. And this is one of, so it got the name peppers because this was an equivalent sort of spicy hot plant that he found when he came here on his voyages. And so he took this back to Europe and it became very popular. And at this time, it was the Spaniards and Portuguese that were kind of running these spice routes. And so they began trading peppers or chiles, is probably a better thing to call them, with people in India primarily. And it became incredibly popular very quickly. Now, one cool aspect of this global spread is that each of the cultures that sort of infused peppers into their cuisine in the way that worked best for them, whether it was super hot or the different flavors. And so now we have many, many different varieties around the globe. But does anybody else have a really hard time thinking about the fact that Asian cuisine did not originally have hot peppers? I mean, hello, hot and sour soup, right? It's just hard to imagine. So now peppers are rated in the Scoville heat units, which is basically a measure of the active ingredient, which is capsaicin. And cayenne, that we're talking about tonight, is considered a moderately hot pepper. And there's mild, moderate, really hot, and insane. Okay. Now, like, I don't understand people that want to eat an insanely hot pepper. I'm kind of a smoked paprika kind of a gal. But some people are into it, and they're probably also into like bungee jumping and, skydiving, these other kinds of extreme sports. Not for me. But before I go on, I want to share with you, before I talk about sort of the medicinal uses of it, what do you do if you actually have a pepper experience that you don't want. And this happened to me many years ago when I was cutting up a hot pepper to make um, some homemade salsa. And some juice squirted into my eye, and I was in so much pain for a full day. I was completely out of commission, and I kept splashing water on it, and it did not realize that I should have been using oil because this capsaicin is oil soluble. So if you ever get in a situation where you get the burning hot sensation in your mouth or sometimes in your nose or your eyes, you can use oil to try to dissolve it, and that will reduce the pain. Now, the truth is that we don't actually get any kind of burning injury from eating hot peppers. Like, we're not getting physically injured. What is happening is that the capsaicin has the ability to trigger the nerve endings that sense the actual "this is too hot stove burning stick" pain, and even though it's not actually burning us. So, truth be told, you don't have to worry about actually getting any kind of tissue damage from eating a hot pepper. Personally, plan on staying away from it. So let's get, before I go on, let me show you some of the pictures here. So, oops, that's our card. We don't want that. Let's back up. So this is a picture of the wild peppers or chilies, we should call them, or chiltepin is another name for it. And it's relatively hot on the Scoville unit scale. And these are these are some of the flowers in the nightshade family. Now, if you're into plant identification, looking at the flower, you can see that the three of these are very similar. On the left is the cayenne pepper plant flower. On the top is a tomato flower, also in the family. And then the blue flower, blue purple, is actually the black nightshade, which is a wild plant. So you can see they have a similar look to them. And that's a great way when you learn flower characteristics. It's a great way to identify plant families. So here's a cayenne pepper growing on a bush. They get relatively tall. They're not too hard to grow. It all depends on the season. Mine got kind of a late start this year. And then, of course, our harvest. And on the right side is a ristra, which is a way that people like to string up the chili peppers for storage. And then, of course, most people are familiar with the powdered chili, the chili powder. It's not chili, well, it's a cayenne powder. Chili powder is a different thing, different kind of chili. And then these are some dried chilies here. Of course, I want to share with you that chili pepper harvest, the cayenne harvest that I had this year. I had a great harvest. Last year, I was doing a program and I wanted some chili peppers and I could not find, like, you can't find these in the store like this. So I decided to grow some myself. And I'm looking forward to making a wreath or a ristra and stringing them up for both decoration and making, as I shall tell you about in a moment, some infused oil to use medicinally. Now, speaking of which, this herb has many benefits, but it is a food. And so whenever I am looking at an herb that's also a food, I like to use this book here, The Herbal Kitchen by Cami Mcbride. She has a really great sort of tons of recipes and great descriptions of each plant that she has in her recipes. And one of the things that she says in there is that uh, the, that it not only intensifies the flavor of foods, but also augments the delivery of the nutrients and medicinal qualities of other herbs. And the reason why it does that is because the primary thing that cayenne does is that it stimulates blood flow. And so it's dilating our capillaries and stimulating blood circulation, getting a lot of blood flowing throughout the body. And that means more oxygen is moving throughout the body as well. It also increases the blood supply to the brain and helps to sort of remove brain fog in many ways. And if anyone's ever eaten a hot pepper, you know that it can make your nose run and clear out congestion as well. And so it is a wonderful herb to use in the case of a really stuffed up head and a cold, which, you know, coming up in the near future. And so as soon as it starts to secrete all that mucus also has a lot of healing properties, and so it gets that flowing as well. It's also known for helping with pain, and it causes pain, but it also can relieve pain. So externally, it has some of the opposite effects. It can be used to, again, for cold hands and feet and joint pain. You can put it on as an oil and rub that in, and it helps to bring the blood flow, and that will loosen up your joint and arthritic pain. And it even can increase blood flow so much that it can make you sweat, which is actually cooling. And so in the tropical areas, it can be used to help cool you. The blood comes to the surface, the blood cools down. And so it is actually both a heating and a cooling remedy. Plants are so cool, aren't they? And it can also be used topically to put on to stop bleeding. Now, there is sort of some folk lore, or not necessarily tested, that in addition, it can help with a if someone is having an angina attack, which is a lack of blood to the heart. And so in theory, you could use this while you were waiting for an ambulance to show up to try to keep the blood circulating, but you're probably better off with CPR in that case. Now, according to Alchemy of Herbs, which is another awesome book that talks a lot about, I used a lot of my books for this particular show. She talks a lot about food and recipes and things like that. Long-term use of cayenne has been shown to lower blood glucose. It's been shown to help with digestion over time and improve overall heart health. Awesome. But I love her book because she is reminds us that when a plant or an herb is kind of one-sided in the way that cayenne is, where it's very, very heating, we have to be really careful about matching that with our constitution. Now, she says it's best for people who have cold hands and feet, have a tendency to be cool, maybe have sort of a sluggish digestion, maybe aren't getting all the nutrients out of the digestion. I definitely match up with those symptoms. So cayenne is a good herb for me. But if you're naturally hot and you've got a strong digestion, and it's not going to match for you. So you have to really look at the constitution of the person when you're choosing an herb to work. Now, moving stagnation is one of the things that it does. And that just happens to be exactly what the flower essence does as well. Now, the flower essence is for people who have gotten just too phlegmatic. And that doesn't mean phlegmatic. It means phlegmatic means very kind of like sedentary, couch potato types. And maybe they've lost motivation or interest in really challenging themselves with any sort of new experiences. And it can also be for people who just feel kind of stuck or immobilized, and they can't make a decision, and they can't move forward, and they're procrastinating, and they're not really sure what to do. They have a lot of resistance. So in both these cases, the cayenne flower essence can help to sort of shift, not just by by waking you up a little bit, but not just by getting rid of stagnation and leaving you in this neutral place, but also sort of stimulating your energies and helping to propel you forward by bringing in more active energies and getting you out of these blocks that you might have. So that goes quite well with our card of the day, which you got a sneak peek of earlier because I had it on the wrong slide. And the card is from the Greenwich Oracle, and the word for this is stimulation. So this card is really talking about being ready, getting out of your sort of procrastination, sluggish ways, your stagnant behaviors or situations, and being ready for something that might be coming along that's looking to give your ideas center stage. What are your ideas? And that you'll need to step up to the challenge if you want to see success. When this opportunity comes along, when opportunities come along, make sure you're ready to step up. You're not just sitting there unprepared. So, one great way to do this to work on your own passions. Make sure they're truly yours so that you are ready to share those when the opportunity comes up. So, I love how these things always all match up on these shows. So, these cayenne hot peppers, right? They will definitely get you moving. They're clearing, they're opening, stimulating, transforming, really keeping us going. They're all action items, getting us into a state of action. So the question is, are you moving? Are you in action? Are you moving in the direction that you want to go? Or, are you taking steps in the right direction? Have you examined your passion and whether or not this is the right one for you and not something somebody else wants you to do? Don't sit by just simply biding your time, waiting for whatever comes along in life and then just being pulled along by that. So we have just entered a new season, and was a great time to sort of re-examine um, things in your life, a chance to switch it up a little bit and make a decision about these actions that you're taking. Are they aligned or not? And if they're not, you're lucky because as people, as humans, we have the ability to make a decision and change something that's going on. So now, if you're feeling a little stagnant and you need to get a move on, you may need some cayenne to give you a little kick in the you know what to get you going. Whether it be a spicy hot and sour soup, a flower essence, either way, cayenne will get you going. So thanks so much for joining me tonight for another Flower Power, and that's our message from Cayenne. Now, I want to ask you a favor. I'm doing a little survey about flower power. I'm getting ready to revamp it a little bit. And if you are a regular watcher or even a first time watcher, could you do me a favor and below in the comments, just let me know what is your favorite part about this show? Do you like the history and lore or how to grow the plant the best? Are you more interested in the medicinal use of the herbs? Are you interested in the flower essence, the sort of energetic, mental, emotional parts that plants can help us with? And are you interested in the card and the sort of messages and the inspirational messages that we get from the plants each week? So just comment down in the comments below and let me know what you think. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe so that you get notifications next time Flower Power goes live. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, everybody. Have a great night.